All right, good morning to you. Hope you had a great weekend. We had a whirlwind of a weekend and ended up having to leave early Thursday, so didn't get to meet with you guys. Trying to catch flights. When you fly standby, man, you never know what's going to happen, and it just looked like we had a clearer shot if we left early. So I took Thursday off, and we jumped on a plane after a little bit of delay here and there, and traversing the Florida. We made our way to Daytona. Had a great weekend there with some good friends, and just enjoyed the whole time. It was powerful. Just being together and strategizing. This girl's a fellow author of mine, and so her and her husband and me and Tamster just hung out, had an incredible weekend. Played on the water and ate some incredible food. Saw the town of New Smyrna. It's a gorgeous little place, and so great fun with that. Saturday we had plans to fly out about 5:45, something like that. Woke up to the realization that we probably weren't going to get home. Got to the airport fast as we could, so we could try and see if we couldn't jump on one of the standbys. They were swamped, so we just made the decision about 1 o'clock, I guess, to rent a car and just drive home from Daytona, which is about a 9.5 hour drive. So made it home. Enjoyed the trip. Had church yesterday, amazing. And then yesterday afternoon, my youngest son got engaged, and so we absolutely love Rachel and excited about that. So just had a great celebration yesterday afternoon. So good times, and hope your weekend was good. We are in the book of Acts, chapter 23. We are slowly making our way through this book. This is I think I've preached 70 times so far through the book of Acts. So if you've been traveling with us through this in the mornings, then man, what a great study it has been. Literally revolutionary and in some ways life changing for me. And looking at some just seeing how this thing comes together. So it's been helpful in our goal planning as the Tamster and I just look at seasons of life and what God wants for us next. And so it's opened up a lot of possibilities of dreaming through some things. And so it's been good for us. So we are. Let's kind of put you in the perspective of where we are. Today's going to be more of like just a dramatic read, I guess, just to kind of keep up with what's going on. But it's fascinating, and I want us to see some things here. I titled this Paul's first class flight out of Jerusalem because, in a sense, we're going to see the sovereignty of God and how He plays it out. And Paul ends up, like winning the lottery in a sense out of this very dire straits situation. So you know that Paul had made it to Jerusalem. He'd been his third missionary journey, and he knew there was some great divisiveness in Jerusalem between the way, that is, or the sect they call it, the Nazarenes. That was some of the terms that they used to talk in terms of those Jews who believed that Jesus was the Messiah. Great rift did it create in Jerusalem because the overwhelming majority, did not believe that. But yet there are probably anywhere from 20 to 100,000. 100,000 believers in Jerusalem that believe in the Messiah. And so the gospel has gone around the world at this point. Paul's been traveling. He says all of Asia has heard the word of the Lord because of those travels. He's concerned about Jerusalem because of the impoverishment there. So when you made the decision to follow Christ and to believe that He's the Messiah, in that Jewish culture, you lost everything. You lost mom and dad potentially. You lost a brother, sister. So you lost all of that. You potentially lost your opportunity to do business because no one was going to shop at your place. There was persecution, so a lot of people had fled. So it's just this upheaval. Paul, trying to bridge the gap and to meet needs, collected money while in Europe, in Asia, to take back to Jerusalem as a gift, hoping that would kind of, encourage the church to, because there was also the rift between the Gentile converts to Jesus and the Jews who had already converted to Jesus. That didn't seem fair, and that the Gentiles needed to keep the law. So he's been dealing with these precarious entities and that were powder kegs, so to speak. So Paul feels this mission to just fix all of that, and so he very confident that he's going to be able to do that. Rides into Jerusalem, meets with James, tells him what's going on among the Gentile world, and James and the church is all excited about it and said, "Hey man, we got bigger issues here. Man, they're out to kill you." And so here's what I need you to do. Remember, he said, take these men, do a Nazirite vow, and have your head shaved, pay for these guys, so that as you walk through the temple, they'll see Paul favoring the Jews in a sense. So he does that, and a riot ensues because a man from Ephesus saw him there in the deal, an angry Jew, and just went crazy. So a riot ensued. They're beating Paul. They're dragging him, and they plan on killing him. The commander hears the commotion, Claudius, and he comes running in there, sees what's happening. He and his soldiers drag Paul out of there, and so they're getting on they're climbing the steps to the barracks and having to carry Paul and all of that. From his just being beat up, and two, just to keep him away from the crowd. He gets to the top, asks if he can speak to the crowd. He does so, and they listen because he's speaking in Aramaic. And as he gets to the place where he says all about how Jesus had met him on the road to Damascus, then he says, and he sent me that I should be an apostle to the Gentiles. Well, then they went crazy again. So the commander orders Paul locked up, was going to beat him, realized he's a Roman citizen. All of a sudden, that creates a whole another set of problems. So this commander's like, man, okay, what are we going to do? So he calls the Sanhedrin together. That's all the Pharisees, Sadducees, ruling leaders, basically the Supreme Court of Jerusalem. Brings Paul in, sets him in the middle, and it just goes south from there as well. So this is where we pick ourselves up. Riots in the temple, all of those things. And the last verse we looked at, the Lord meets Paul in the barracks. So the commander has put Paul in the barracks. He's going to figure out what to do next and what his next move is. It says, verse 10, when the dispute became violent, the commander feared that Paul might be torn apart by them and ordered the troops to go down, take him away, bring him back to the barracks. So there Paul is. Now, that's in the morning. The evening hour, here's what it says, verse 11. The following night, the Lord stood by him and said, have courage, for as you have testified about me in Jerusalem, so it is necessary for you to testify in Rome. Now, there's some power that comes out of that. That I don't want us to miss. It is the fact of a sovereign God who has showed up to bring great encouragement to Paul. Listen to what he said. Paul's in a dark spot. Paul wanted to enjoy Jerusalem, celebrate all of that, and head to Rome. And then when he got to Rome, he wanted to spend some time there, and then he wanted to go to Spain. This was his goal. He'd been telling everybody, I'm going to Rome. I'm going to Rome. I'm going to do this. And all the while, he's been hearing the Lord say, about through the Spirit, prisons and afflictions await you. Chains and affliction await you. And so, in fact, his last time as he left to head to Jerusalem, the prophet Agabus shows up, binds him with a belt, and says, this is what's going to happen to you when you get there. So Paul's like, okay, well, maybe not. We'll see what happens. And so here he is, has to be a little discouraged about what's going on, potentially a little confused. And listen to what happens, right? The Lord stands by him. This isn't a vision. This is the Lord physically enters that room, stands by him, and says, hey man, buck up, right? Have courage. Hey, listen, don't look, I know what you just went through. This is how God meets us as well, right? This is the Comforter, the Holy Spirit. This is how he operates. And so he's mindful of what Paul's afflictions have done to him, and he knows he's a little fearful. He knows he's concerned. He knows all of that, and he goes, hey, Paul, look at me. It's going to be okay. Just as you testified in Jerusalem, we're going to Rome, bud. And at one point, you got to think Paul's going, yes, I knew I was going to get to Rome. But at another, you think, I'm not okay, let's see how this plays out. I say this to let you know that from this point on, we see a series of events that take place. And we don't necessarily, does it say God did this and God did that? But much like the book of Esther, we see the thumbprint of God all the way through these series of circumstances. Here's what I know: God is able to rearrange people and circumstances to accomplish the purpose that God has for us. And so when I call this Paul's first class trip, you'll see why in a minute, because he gets an incredible escort and ends up in the palace of the king. But that's a whole story we're going to get to in just a minute. So let's just read what happens. So that happens to Paul at night. So he's like, okay, all right, Lord's going to get me out of here. That's what he knows. Lord's going to get me out of here. That's good news, right? God doesn't always tell us how things are going to go, but to Paul, at least he knew, okay, I'm not going to die in Jerusalem, so I'm okay. Now, we get to verse 12, and it says, when it was morning, the Jews formed a conspiracy and bound themselves under a curse not to eat or drink until they had killed Paul. Okay, so we just heard what the Lord said to Paul. Now we move away from that scene, look at the next scene, and we're hearing and listening in on the Jews and their desire to form a conspiracy and to kill Paul. So already we know, okay, he's going to get delivered because God said so, but they're pretty angry. There were more than 40 who had formed this plot. 40 men have formed this plot. These men went to the chief priests and the elders and said, we have bound ourselves under a solemn curse that we won't eat anything until we have killed Paul. Okay, now all of a sudden you're thinking, wait, you just went to the court of law and said, hey, we're going to kill somebody. That's what just happened. 40 of them were killing him. So where are they going? To the council, right? To the high priest and to the Sanhedrin. And it says this, we have bound ourselves. So now you, along with the Sanhedrin, make a request to the commander that he bring down to you as if you were going to investigate his case more thoroughly. But before he gets near, we're ready to kill him. Now, slow down just a minute and let absorb what's going on. That court must be extremely corrupt. Right? I mean, this is the ruling body of the Jew. This is if there's someone in that world that considers themselves God's representative, it would be them. Yet they are as evil as the day is long, because these 40 men say, hey, we're going to go kill Paul, even though we don't have a case against him. And here's what we need you to do. Call for a convention, a meeting, so that when he comes toward us, we can kill him. Like just in the open air, they're having these conversations. Crazy how evil and how Satan can just bring anybody into his fold and begin to use them for his own purposes. Now, this is where it gets interesting. So that's the plot. Verse 16. But the son of Paul's sister. All right, so Paul's got a sister. We didn't know that. Paul's got a nephew. We didn't know that. Paul's got relatives in Jerusalem. We didn't know that. He's from Tarsus. We don't know anything about this. But God ordered these sets of series that take place. The son of Paul's sisters, hearing about their ambush. How did that happen? I mean, a sovereign God apparently puts him in the right place at the right time. So word comes to his ear that there's going to be an ambush and his uncle is the target. He came and entered the barracks and reported it to Paul. So, see, because the barracks wasn't a prison. The barracks that's just a holding place to keep prisoners safe, especially him, because he was a Roman citizen. They couldn't put him in the prison because he hadn't been tried yet. So he's just in the barracks, safe, secure among the soldiers. So the guy comes in and goes, hey, I'm here to see Paul. I'm Paul's nephew. And he goes and he talks to Paul. Paul called one of the centurions, that's one of the soldiers, and said, take this young man to the commander because he has something to report to him. Now, no, I mean, okay. So Paul just gets a soldier and says, hey, here's what I need you to do. Because that's the boldness of the apostle. And he's like, hey, this guy's got something to say. You need to take him. So the commander took him by the hand and led him aside and inquired privately. Okay, what? So he comes into the commander. This guy's a busy man. And Paul's little nephew walks in and so he says, what is it you have to report to me? He said, well, the Jews, he said, have agreed to ask you to bring Paul down to the Sanhedrin tomorrow, as though they were going to hold somewhat more carefully inquiry about him. Don't let them persuade you, because there are more than 40 of them lying in ambush, men who have bound themselves under a curse not to eat or drink until they have killed him. Now they are ready, waiting for your consent. So the commander dismissed the young man and instructed him, don't tell anyone that you have informed me about this. So the plot that's happening in the underbelly of this evil world has been found out by God's sovereignty through Paul's nephew, who finds his way in the presence of the commander, and the commander is moved by that to say, okay, not on my watch. That's not happening. Now, listen to what takes place. He summoned 2 of his centurions and said, get 200 soldiers ready, and 70 cavalry, and 200 spearmen to go to Caesarea at 9 tonight. So now, let that sink in. This is the silent power of God. Listen, even when you don't see him, he's working, right? So Paul is going to get to Rome, and this is going to happen. I mean, he's at least getting to Caesarea, so he's getting out of Dodge, so to speak. And listen to how he's getting out of there. 470 soldiers of Rome are going to take one prisoner 60 miles northwest to the sea, to the sea, Mediterranean Sea, to meet with the governor or within the area, to let him hear this story and just get him out of there. So he's diffusing the situation. And so this is what it is. You got 200 soldiers. You have 70 cavalrymen, and you have 200 spearmen, 470 soldiers, 9 o'clock at night. Now, Caesarea is a heavily Gentile area. And so you get him away from the heavily Judaistic area and put him in one that's a little less hostile. And this is what God is doing. So he goes 60 miles northwest of Jerusalem to the sea. Now, this is the letter that he wrote. Also provide mounts to ride so that Paul may be brought safely to Felix the governor. And give Paul a horse so we can just get him out of here. Now, verse 25. He wrote the following letter. Claudius Lysias, that's the name of the commander, to the most excellent governor Felix. Greetings. When this man had been seized by the Jews and was about to be killed by them, I arrived with my troops and rescued him because I learned that he is a Roman citizen. Not entirely true. He didn't rescue him because of that, but once he did, then he realized he was in trouble, so he did. Wanting to know the charge they were accusing him of, I brought him before the Sanhedrin. I found out that the accusations were concerning questions of their law and that there was no charge that merited death or imprisonment. He didn't come in here to try to blow up the temple or kill somebody or any of that. It's just some law dispute among a bunch of religious nuts. And there was no charge that merited death or imprisonment. When I was informed that there was a plot against the man, I sent him to you right away. I also ordered his accusers to state their case against him in your presence. So after they leave with this letter, he says, hey, listen, Paul's in Caesarea. You're going to need to go there with a representative, and he's going to try the case. So, verse 31. So the soldier took Paul during the night and brought him to Antipas, which is a city, as they were ordered. The next day they returned to the barracks, allowing the cavalry to go on with them. So they take them halfway, and then from Antipatris, they go on up to Caesarea. When these men entered Caesarea and delivered the letter to the governor, they also presented Paul to him. After he read it, he asked, okay, so what province are you from? He's just trying to ascertain, hey, are you in my territory? When he learned that he was from Cilicia, he said, well, I'm going to give you a hearing whenever your accusers get here. He ordered that he be kept under guard in Herod's palace. Now, that's the governor's mansion. So when Herod died a terrible death because he had assaulted John the Baptist, his house went up for sale, whatever. But Felix the governor is his house. So he ends up in this incredible palace having gotten there by 470 guardsmen to get there, and there he sits waiting on his trial. And I find it fascinating how God's going to do what He's going to do, and He'll maneuver heaven and earth to accomplish His purposes. That's good news for you and me, who sometimes wonder if God is even aware of what's going on in our circumstances. God neither sleeps nor He slumbers. That's what the psalmist says. And He works for us while we wait on Him. And God causes all things to work together for good to those that love God and are called according to His purpose. How powerful is that? That the God of all creation bends His ear toward His people like He did Paul and like He does you and me. And He maneuvers circumstances to get us to the places that He feels we best are of service to Him. How powerful is that? Man, Lord bless you guys. I can't wait to follow this journey on in the morning. And until then, have a great day.